Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar on how to host, today's webinar on digital transformation through a mobile membership app, our special webinar for clients. My name is Edward Wendling, and I'll be your moderator for today, and also co-presenting with a few other folks. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items to go over. Everybody is muted for today's webinar so we can have a smooth presentation, but we will be taking questions at the end. Asking questions is very easy. On the right-hand side of your screen, you should see the Go to Webinar navigation pane. Near the bottom of this pane is a question section where you can post your questions at any time during the webinar. At the end of the presentation, we'll go through as many questions as we can. If you have any technical difficulties during the question, please also use the question section and we will try to address them. So with that being said, now it's my pleasure to turn it over to Brad Latour, our host and first presenter. Brad, the floor is yours.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for being with us today. Thank you, Edward. Real excited for today's presentation. We have some fantastic guests today. Most notably, a couple of clients who are going to give you some real live examples of what they've been doing really over the last 60 days dealing with the COVID-19 crisis. So I would like to introduce this panel in order of how they're going to be presented. So first and foremost, Kelsey Drugan. Say hello, Kels. She is our Client Success Manager for Clowder. She's an absolute dynamo when it comes to client success, which you will absolutely be able to feel as you're going through this. Joining Kelsey is going to be Michelle Berrones. She is with our client, Pennsylvania Dental Association, and she's the communications coordinator for PDA. She manages all their social media properties, including Facebook and Twitter, as well as she's really the point person and responsible for the success of PDA Go, which is the name of their Clowder app. She's also a graphic designer by trade with years of marketing experience and across multiple different fields. So after those two dynamos get going and start talking about everything that they've been doing to make the app useful for them, they're going to pass it over to Alexa Cage. She's our Director of Client Success. I'm sure all of you have spoken to Alexa at some time or another. And really, she's the single most important person responsible for our strategy for client success, really the direction and the implementation of all the different best practices, project plan, all the playbooks that hopefully that you're taking full advantage of. And we're just really fortunate to have her on the team leading this group. And then last, you're going to hear from Edward Wendling, who opened up the session today. He is our moderator, is going to be managing the slides for us as well. And Edward's also a client. He's the VP of Marketing for ASI. If you're familiar with ASI, they're the creators of IMS, a very popular AMS platform, been around almost for 30 years. And he is the executive in charge of really product, but also demand generation, as well as the relationships, strategic relationships, and events. Really up until the last 60 days ago, those were all live events. And he's going to share today how he transitioned in just under 2 weeks, going from a live event that was supposed to happen in Orlando, transitioning it into a virtual event. It went so well. He's now added 3 virtual events and how they have used what they call ASI Connect, which is their version of the Clowder app, to really act as the framework. So you're going to get a lot of really valuable information today. The intent is that you walk away and you're grabbing some nuggets that maybe you haven't used yet, or that you want to use today. So let's go ahead. I have just a couple of context slides to get this thing rolling, and then I'm going to pass it over to Michelle and Kelsey, and they're going to share some of their specific examples. So let's first unpack where we are, take some perspective, and talk about a little bit of the context of the last 60 days and really dealing with this pandemic and this crisis. So 30% of the workforce is estimated to work from home well over after this is all over. So, on one far end of the spectrum, you have companies like, Twitter saying, you never have to come back to the office. And then you have others that were forced out of the office trying to figure out what is that blend, what are those guidelines, how do those guidelines turn into policy? But arguably, going to the office like we all did up until about March 15th, those days are probably over. So how do we deal with that? 56 million people have been affected by event cancellations, reschedules, or shifts to formats. We've been on this topic now since late March, where we did our first webinar. And back then we were asking the question, do you think ASA is going to host their annual meeting, in August? And it's interesting. The first time it was about a 50-50 split. 2 weeks later, we asked it again. It quickly went to 70-30. By the time we were ready to ask it that morning, they had canceled it. So certainly many of you are dealing with this. And I think you're going to find some comfort in how Edward attacked this problem, and he wasn't willing to, quote unquote, give it away. He knew he had tons of value in his content, so he was still maintaining revenue in his sponsorships. And those are all really, difficult challenges we all have to deal with. These are businesses, they run off of revenue. Events drive a lot of that revenue. So how do you still share the content while preserving that revenue? People spent 20% more time using their apps. This is a new stat that we found recently in the first quarter of 2020 compared to last year. That's a massive jump, right? And I think all of us, as we're working from home, we kind of understand why. It's quick, it's easy, we feel engaged, and it's what's always in front of us. Zoom, we're not on Zoom, but I'm sure all of you have used Zoom. It has been the #1 free app in the App Store. It still is today. That's since March 18th, as you can see there. But look at how their user base has expanded. Certainly, there's a ton of losers related to the COVID-19 crisis. Some entire industries, hospitality industry, airlines industry, restaurants, bars, hotels have been absolutely decimated. But there's also some silver lining. There's some growth stories. Zoom is absolutely one of those growth stories, and you'll notice there by its increase in usage up over 300%. And to continue on that same topic of using Zoom as a bit of a bellwether, look at their spikes. So 10 million in December, and they reached 200 million active users in the month of March. So they had a 20x in usage in what was arguably already a very popular platform. Certainly something that we use on a regular basis, not just with our team internally, but also doing demos with clients and screen shares. And the last point really just kind of speaks to, isolation and how do we deal with this going forward? And, these stats are something that are pretty eye-opening. And I think as a nation, we've made a lot of strides in understanding, the behavioral sciences far better. And, this needs to be a concern. We talk about it very openly amongst our team. I myself have certainly felt isolated from time to time. I didn't expect that. And, maybe it's because we were all forced into this situation, but I think it is responsible to have that level of awareness. And certainly technology can go a long way in kind of filling some of that gap and that void of feeling isolated. Staying informed, obviously, the usual suspects. So how are you getting your information? How are you feeling connected? I just said we're feeling isolated. So are you getting that through traditional news channels? Are you getting that through social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram? Are you getting that through traditional emails? That's where most associations have found themselves over the years, is they just use traditional email. Challenge with traditional email is less and less people are really responding to it, especially when you are absolutely inundated with every single brand you've ever come in contact with felt compelled to send you an email about how they are dealing with COVID-19, whether you care or not. So you got an increase in emails you didn't care about, which really just creates noise and distraction from those emails that you actually do care about. And certainly one way that we're going to talk about today is how do you blend in mobile where the attention is to maybe, offset that knee-jerk reaction and that historical approach that, email is the end-all be-all. So much of today is really about cutting through the noise and leveraging your app to do that. And what you're going to see next here really with Michelle and Kelsey is just having a conversation. They're going to share exactly some of the things that they've done working hand in hand, and you're going to see some really positive results that came through that. So I think that's the strong takeaway for really why we're here today. Ultimately, everything is consolidated where the attention is in one app, created and dedicated for year-round, approach, discussion, and it's about convenience. And why wouldn't you want to use your app to take advantage of where the attention is? So that's where the attention is. The data is super overwhelming to that fact, which I opened with. And, you want to leverage your app for, the best possible and most convenient way to allow all the individual features to work together, not in silos. And I think that's a master theme that you're going to walk away with today. Don't just look at a single feature. How does that feature work with some of the other key features for really kind of an exponential effect, right? It's a compounding effect. Just a push notification by itself is good, but a push notification that drives people to a forum where you have influencers talking about a really important topic that's supported with documents in your resource center, that's supported by a newsfeed video, now that becomes exponential. So this is a good opportunity. I'm going to turn it over to Kelsey and Michelle, and they are going to talk very specifically about PDA Go, which is the name of their app. And, before I hand it over, I can't be more proud of what PDA has done. And, you'll notice not a national association, not, dozens and dozens of staff members. They need to be more prudent on budget. And arguably, they have knocked it out of the park with really everything that they've done. So with that, Kelsey and Michelle, really appreciate you guys picking it up from here and sharing some of those things that you've done for the rest of our clients.
Thank you.
Yeah, Brad, thank you for passing it over. I definitely think it's been a great experience to work with Michelle over at PDA Go. And like Brad mentioned, she is the communications coordinator. And thank you for the context, Brad. We are about to talk about PDA Go's success story here. But before we do, Michelle, I'd like you to touch upon what was your experience with PDA Go prior to it being this mission control that we see it being now?
Sure. Thanks, Kelsey. Well, prior to our experience now, I think we had some similar struggles deciding on what content to post, having a full board of content ready to go. We had some trouble asking for influencers, members who would be able to go in and help to try to get the app going. There was some hesitancy about sending push notifications. We don't want to bug everyone, just to not be annoying with it. But and we also weren't using it internally. We weren't using the app as an organization to message each other and whatnot.
Yeah, and Michelle, you're not alone. I've seen this with clients when they first get the app, and I think it's great we're on the line here to talk about how those things shifted over time. And I know you mentioned hesitant to send pushes. That's something as the client success team that now we are really encouraging our clients to do. So I'm excited to touch more upon that one as well. But Michelle, moving from those items, how did you all decide to start using the Clouder app as a main source of info? What was that kickstart to get you all going?
Sure. Well, I'm going to thank Alexa for being proactive and sending the checklist in the newsletter. I read all of the Clowder newsletters religiously, and I remember it was about March 20th, perhaps, no, I'm sorry, March 13th. Anyway, she sent out the newsletter, and it had the checklist of things to do coronavirus-wise so that we could implement that with the app. I went through and I just checked off everything, and we had it implemented, and everything just really snowballed from there. They were just such great tools, and once we started advertising those tools and letting people know that that was where they could go for all of their information that they needed, it just snowballed, like I said. And we also used our other avenues to advertise the fact that the app was mission control.
Michelle, I think those are great points. And one of my favorite things was receiving Michelle's email back to Alexa's checklist. She emailed back right away and she was like, this is exactly what I was hoping for. You know, now I know what information to put where. And so with that, it kind of goes into the start of how Michelle started uploading this content into the different features of the Clowder app. So Michelle, would you mind walking us through what content you uploaded to what features, or maybe how you made those decisions?
Sure. Well, you know, as mostly everyone saw, mid-March, everyone was inundated with so much information. Our parent association, the American Dental Association, was feeding us a lot of information that we wanted to pass on to our membership. So primarily it went into the newsfeed. You know, prior we were doing members in the news. We had some legislation going on, and then we started introducing the COVID-19 news alerts. We also promoted our online CE courses so that people could feel like they could still get their requirements in if they weren't able to attend in person. And we also promoted the fact that we were working with suppliers for PPE, which is still in process. So with that, with the news feed, we crossed that over with the forums. So we started posting ADA information in the very beginning, and we would tell members in the newsfeed to go to the forums to discuss. And sometimes we would just post information in the forums just to spark a discussion. So that helped as well. The resources.
And Michelle, I know one thing that we talked about for the forums was that once you all posted with that PDA communications that you can see on the left side, you let me know that the members started posting on their own and kind of took it from there. It wasn't a lot of staff involvement as much so as just monitoring. It was more that the members wanted to communicate with other members.
Yes. And, you know, just given the situation, I think everyone let their guard down a little bit, and they weren't as afraid to have some words attached to their name. They just wanted to know that other people were feeling the same way that they were, and to get some help from people that were in the same industry. So it was really, it was just really timely for everyone to start getting a comfort level for posting in the forums. Whereas prior to, we couldn't get anyone to do it.
So I think it's great that the conversation just kept going.
Oh, it's been really great. And one of the things that I think is really neat is that we've seen a lot of potential leaders emerge in the forums, people that are supportive of PDA and the ADA, and people that are supportive of dentistry as a whole and supportive of their colleagues. So also
Michelle,
yeah,
go ahead.
I was just going to say about the resources, the items that we would post in the news feeds, then we would make them available in the resource folders, and we would advertise that as well. So they knew that if they didn't catch it in the news feed or save it, then they would be able to go to the resources.
I think that's a great point. And other feature that we don't see on the screen is push notifications. I remember you talking about how you were hesitant at first to send them for that content of push notifications during the coronavirus. Did you all feel more comfortable? Was there any, pushback from members on sending them out? What did you see as an organization and from your members with push notifications?
I think that, like I said, we let our guard down too, and we knew that we just had to get the information out. And being able to make a specific subject line for the push notifications so that we could customize that. So whether it be just for you or member exclusive, that way we could let people know that this is a member benefit, but they're also getting information as it's happening. We got no pushback whatsoever. I have never heard anyone complain that they get too many pushes. It's really no harm, no foul. If they don't want it, they just swipe it away. If they do, then they'll know that it's there for them to go back and look at.
And I think that's the greatest thing, is that no one emailed you, hey, we're getting too many push notifications. Instead, it seems like your members were really thankful to get those constant updates on what was going on with the ADA as well as PDA.
Yes. And there were some
so
days,
I know all of,
sorry, there were some days in April, for example, where we would send out 6 or 7 push notices in a day, just because there was that much information coming across that we wanted to direct them to.
which I think is great. And for the clients listening on the line, I know some of you may think 6 or 7 a day might seem like a lot, but again, PDA got no pushback from their members. Their members were happy to receive those updates. So don't be afraid if you have breaking news or things you want to let your members know is going on, to send those pushes, because they will appreciate them. And like Michelle just said, no harm, no foul. They can just swipe them away if they don't want them.
Right.
And I see we're moving on here to not just the content that was in the app. And Michelle, great job walking them through all of the different features and what content you put in there. As far as promotion, what were you all doing to let your members know that PDA Go was mission control?
Sure. So I'm fortunate that I have all of those different avenues at my computer. So anything that would go out on Newsfeed or a push would also be cross-posted to Facebook and Twitter, to dedicated emails for our membership, and then also for our website, where we have a dedicated COVID-19 resource center for our members. So everything, it was everywhere to the extent that it could be. So we got to be a little bit creative with Facebook and Twitter, because we were limited on how much content we could put. Occasionally we would do just a headline and read more in the app. And if you don't have the app, you needed to have it yesterday, because there's a lot of information in there that you need. And just letting them know, we have QR codes that we advertise on the app and different things. And just letting everyone know that the app's available for Apple and Android devices. Including member testimonials about how they love getting the news alerts. So we've seen a lot of growth, I think, from those Facebook and Twitter, and even membership emails. There are a lot of members, quite a few actually, that don't have the app, PDA Go, yet, but they do get the emails. So we give them a constant reminder that they don't need to log into a computer, go to their email, read it. They could just get it on their app.
I think those are all great points. And I know I personally receive your emails, so I can see that those download links are always in the bottom. And like Michelle mentioned, the tweet that they put out did have a testimonial. So what you see on that left side with the quote is they actually pulled a quote from a member. And Michelle, do you happen to remember what the quote was about, to give our clients an idea?
Yeah, basically Dr. Scrimali said that since he always has his phone with him, he loves getting the news alerts that come across the screen as we post them. So I think most of us are used to carrying a device with us wherever we go. And the app is nice because we can kind of multitask if we're, somewhere else in the building at work, or any place else we might be. We have access to that in our hands. So he was really happy with that. We use that quote quite a bit because it just lets people know that that he's happy to get them, the news alerts.
I think it was great to pull a member quote and show your other members how, the ones that are in the app appreciate it. And then I know that you all received recognition on the app from your members as well, aside from this quote. And Edward, if you could flip to the next slide for us. We saw these comments from your members. What additional recognition did you receive just from your members, as well as I know there was another email sent out with recognition for PDA Go?
Sure. Well, it was really nice to get that feedback from our members when we reached our 1,000 user milestone. We received an acknowledgement from the ADA News that they had been seeing our activity on social media, and they acknowledged that and just thought that we were doing a really great job with it, and they wanted to thank us for doing that. So between that and what we've gotten from members, several staff members have even received phone calls or just comments during conversations that the app has been a real lifesaver, and it's really helped them to have access to the information that they want and need. So they've been very appreciative of the work we're doing with that.
Michelle, I think that is all great, and I know you have worked hard for this as well, which brings us to our next slide, is the success that PDA Go saw during this time, which is over 1,000 app users. I do have confetti here, so
yay!
Go PDA Go. We saw your post in the app, as well as Michelle. I know you sent out this downloads, and as you can see, they got over 400 downloads just for March 2020. Using this content and promotion combined, this is the results that they saw. And Michelle, I know you put this little promo in the app to let all the users know the success you all were seeing, but what do you attribute these increases to?
Well, I'd have to say first and foremost is really the support and the ideas that we get from you as Clowder staff and a company. Take advantage of every piece of information that Clowder gives, because it really does help. On our end, it's really also consistent messaging and promotion. So at the end of all of our newsfeed posts, we always remind everyone that we have Facebook, Twitter, the website, emails, that we have that, and we do that with every single platform. We cross promote. And we make sure that we're giving important content, we're giving people what they want to see, especially at this time. And we're just using all of the features of the app in concert with each other. So for example, with the push notifications, if I would have created a new folder in the resources, let's say for small business tools, I would just put a push out saying, hey, there's a new folder in resources, check it out. Not attached to any news or anything like that, just a push about that. And then with the forums too, we have a dedicated message that goes out every time someone posts in the forum, and it just says there's a discussion going on, we want your 2 cents. And that's how people know that something new's been posted and they can contribute to.
Michelle, I think those are great points, and I appreciate you saying the Clowder point. Michelle and I did not talk about that anytime recently, so I think Alexa probably appreciates that as well, knowing her emails are appreciated and that you read them. And Michelle, I know you've been on a few webinars with Brad as well, so it's exciting that those things do make a difference for you, as well as the success of the app. And I know not just your members appreciate it, also internally. So aside from these 1,000 app users that are loving the app and commenting great things, I know staff have also adopted the app. So Edward, if you'll click to that next slide there. Michelle, could you tell us a little bit about how you all are using it internally now?
Sure. So, it was around March 20th where we all found out very quickly that we were going to be working from home and remotely. And we had special groups set up within the app, one for our communications crew. We had another one for the app crew, which we call the PDA Go Squad, with certain staff members in those groups. And it really helps to identify a sense of urgency. It's almost like a text message, but everyone's inboxes for email are just overflowing, and things get lost very quickly. So when we have something urgent or something we need attention paid to, we send we send a message through the app to that person or to that group and just put it out there. And when you get a message saying PDA go, we know that it's got a little bit more urgency than something that might show up in the email box.
I definitely know, I feel that too. Michelle also messages me in the app, which is, I think, a great way for me to respond as well to any urgent requests or quick questions she might have. So as a client, do know that you have that option to message your client success manager in the app for those quick responses. And I love the names that Michelle and PDA has for their groups. It makes it a little bit more fun to have that PDA Go squad and comms crew. So making it urgent, but also fun while you're working, maybe up if you're, helping your kids with school or about to go, eat lunch. When you're walking there, you can do work and it doesn't quite feel as much like work. So Michelle, I'm happy to see that you all use it internally, and I know you spearheaded that. So I think that was a great thing to do.
Thank you.
And so with that, this is Michelle and I's portion, and we are done with our Q&A. There is time for questions at the end, so we'll stay on. But as you can see, Michelle and I work together, and I think it's been a great journey during these past months. And to see that quick success has been really exciting, and the whole PDA team feels it too.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
All right, I think it's my turn to take over now and talk a little bit about how you can leverage the features. I think Michelle did a great job walking through what PDA is doing. In the next few slides, I'm going to highlight just a couple of other things, share a few other ideas. So Edward, if you want to go ahead and click through to the next one for me. So Michelle talks about the power of push notifications, and if you've heard from me directly, you'll know that I talk about push notifications pretty much until I'm blue in the face. I feel so strongly about them. I think that they are, it's not even just my opinion, and I can be biased, but they are the fastest way to get eyes on industry alerts. There's no doubt about it. We are all inundated with email, even still, months after this really hit ahead. I wake up to over 50 emails in my inbox every morning, and it's just sifting through things, trying to find what's important. And push notifications are really powerful in that. Another state level association, not unlike Pennsylvania Dental Association, is the Texas Restaurant Association. The restaurant industry was hit immensely hard in this pandemic, and the Texas Restaurant Association, actually, who also works with Kelsey, totally decided to forego emails and solely focused on the app and communications through the app. So you can see here, these are all notifications from them. I mean, I would wake up to 10, 15, 16, 20 notifications sometimes a day, when they're really using this as a real-time alerting tool. If you can think about like your news apps, they're doing that exact same thing. Every time something broke, every time something changed, it was sent out in a push notification, which I think is really powerful. Brad mentioned a little bit earlier, with push notifications, they can be both action oriented, where it requires someone to click on it to get more info, so that clickbait, or it can just be truly just a quick tidbit or that sound bite that someone needs to stay informed and kind of keep moving throughout their day. Next, thanks, Edward. So the push notifications are not just tied to the newsfeed, which is what most people think of, but the newsfeed is a really powerful part of your app too, to help cut through the noise. And I think really the theme of what we try to focus on at Clowder in the native app technology is cutting through the noise. It's your dedicated space. You get to control all of the content, and you get to put out the message that is most important. You've probably heard from me before, we think that the most successful apps kind of combine utility and entertainment. So you're giving your members access to informative content, but you're also giving them like a safe space to kind of open up. Michelle touched on that a little bit with other features like the forums. We have a few clients that have done a lot of really great things with YouTube, recorded webinars, posting those in the apps, messages from their presidents, their CEOs, letting them know that they're there for the membership. Our client, the American Choral Directors Association, hosted virtual concerts, which were super powerful. I actually cried during one of them. I was so moved. So there's a lot of power in the newsfeed. We support not just static news content, but like I said, YouTube live streams, podcasts, webinars, recordings. So you have a lot of versatility in your newsfeed to give your users a way to interact, not just statically through reading, but dynamically through engaging with a video or a podcast, something like that. So the forums are probably one of my favorite features in the app, and probably one of everyone at Clowder. The forums are really powerful in that, you guys as the organization can control the categories. People are sometimes scared of the forums and what life they'll take on, but like Michelle said, let your guard down. This is a time for connectivity. This is a time for engagement. This is a time to allow people to kind of open up and to share their feelings, their thoughts, their concerns, search for knowledge sharing with their peers in the membership. That's part of the aspect of what they pay for. So give them that opportunity. They want to hear from other people that are in the industry. Yes, you as an organization have a lot of power in keeping them informed, but what are their peers doing? What are people that are in the exact same role or position or industry doing? They want to know that too. And the forums is a way to get that information. ASAE, a client of ours, set up a number of different COVID-19 related topics to keep everything really organized, from advocacy to general discussion to remote work and how that's impacting different businesses. And it's a source of comfort and camaraderie. But like I said, as an organization, you can control a lot of those topics, but then allow your members to just run with it and ask each other questions. As an association or an organization, you can also log in and respond to members. I know that PDA Go staff did that, and we have a few other clients that are in there answering questions that members are asking. So work with me or your client success manager to brainstorm the best topics based on what we're seeing other clients do and leverage really successfully. And also, to Brad's point about all this cross promotion and feature utilization, you need to send out a push notification when you post a forum thread. You need to put it in the newsfeed. It's part of it is an education process, and all of these features really do work hand in hand very well. And we have best practices so that you guys don't have to think about, okay, well, what should I post about the forums? Your client success managers are there to help you create images that you need or customize stock photos. So if it's a concern of even time or just like, where do I start? Just reach out to us. We have everything ready for you. We have sample text, we have sample images to help take a lot of that guesswork out of it, and really to help you guys save a lot of time, but to get these valuable features to your members. So the one thing about the Resource Center that I don't think a lot of people realize is that all of the documents that you add to the Resource Center are exportable from the app. It's probably one of the most powerful aspects of our Resource Center. So it's not just a static list of documents that you view or that you open in the app. It's not really like reader friendly to look at a PDF in the app, but the benefit is that that information is stored there, and then I as an end user can export it to all of my native phone applications. That does vary, by user and by phone type. But things like email, if I wanted to email a file to myself, I could do that directly from the app. So filling your resource center with content from PDFs to files to Excel sheets. We also support MP3 and MP4, which is something that I don't think a lot of people realize either. So you can upload recorded webinars here if you don't want that to live in the news feed. You can upload MP3. So if you're doing a podcast and you want to visualize it in a different way, you can add that here. And again, because it's exportable, you're allowing your users to take it off network, save it on their phone, or email it to themselves to follow up on a later time. I think Michelle really hit it on the nail on the head here with the push notifications. Your members aren't going to know that you're adding content if you don't tell them you're adding content. Would you go to Facebook, Instagram, those different places if you didn't get tagged in notifications? Probably yes, because we're all just habitually addicted to those tools. But what about a text message? What about an email? You wouldn't know that you had those things without a push notification. So it's really important that you're telling your members, if you're spending the time adding the content to the app, tell them. They're not going to be mad, we promise. Everything's super accessible in the Resource Center. Both the folder level is searchable and also the content of the folder is searchable. So if people are looking for a particular document, you can search by name, or if they're looking for a particular folder, if you have quite a few folders, they can search by that as well. The in-app messaging, I think, is really powerful as well, because what a lot of people, where they don't want to have a conversation in the forum, you can take it to a private message or a group message. There are a lot of different uses for the messaging. You heard Michelle touch on that, from the staff using it to them knowing that the members are messaging with each other. If they have more of a private question or are looking for a more one-to-one interaction. The messaging works just like it does really on your iPhone or your Android device. It's very similar to iMessage. You can share content from the newsfeed to a message as well. So if you wanted to send a post to someone and say like, hey, did you see this? Or, this is a great resource. You mentioned you were looking for something like this. It helps with networking as well as, internal team productivity from the group messaging or to the direct chat. We also, you can do things like emojis, you can add images, all of that good stuff. So really the same experience that you have, in iMessage, your members can take advantage, especially, with in-person communication being cut down to a minimum. This is a really powerful aspect. So I ran through that pretty quickly, as I feel like I always do, but I'm going to turn it over to Edward to talk a little bit more about canceled events and what's next for that. And then if you have any questions specifically about the features, as Kelsey mentioned, at the end, we will be doing a Q&A, so we'll all be able to kind of jump in and highlight different things.
Awesome, Alexa, thank you. And we're running long because there's so much great content we've got. So I'm going to be pretty quick with my portion. Just to re-explain who I am. My name is Edward Wendling with ASI. We're the developers of IMIS, and we offer the Cloud or mobile app to our clients, but we also are a client ourselves. And we have used the Cloud or mobile app for I think a year and a half now as a resource for our clients and our partners, and in particular to support our annual partner and client conference. We had our client conference scheduled for the end of March this year, quite possibly about the worst timing, although it's tough for everybody, and made the decision about 2 weeks out to go from in-person to virtual. And luckily, we had the Cloud or mobile app already in place to support it. So there's a ton that I could tell everybody about how to go from an in-person to a virtual event. We've documented all of that, and we can make that available. But I want to highlight a couple things here. So the first thing I want to do is I want to give a shout out to the Cloud or client success team, which Michelle did really a good job of highlighting what they did. Pretty much everything we do in the app, every way we figured out how to use our events portion of the app has come from talking with Kelsey and Alexa. I definitely echo the comment that I think Michelle made about notifications, and Kelsey and Alexa have been telling us the same thing. Don't be shy, send notifications. So they've been a big help. So what I'm showing on the screen that I think we were kind of most excited about, these two screenshots. So the first on the left here, or kind of in the middle of your screen, this is a drill down into one of our event sessions. And then to the right of it is actually the sort of general area of the event. So first on the drill down, I know this is small. If you look at the top underneath the title and the description, you see a live and an on-demand link. So we have our event app or event portion of the app set up so that you can actually link to a live GoToWebinar, or you can actually link to a recording of the event itself or the session itself. So our attendees are able to use the app to actually experience the event. Now they can also go to the GoToWebinar on their laptop or desktop, and many did that, but we also have the event right in the app, so those who maybe get distracted, had to step away for a little bit, they still have access to everything. And that of course includes the sessions, and it includes the ability to rate the app. So we were all set up for our in-person event, it was very easy to shift to a virtual. It really was just adding the live and the on-demand option. Everything else was already there. So that was very easy, and we were very fortunate to have that set up. Next item to kind of go through really quick is just, communication and engagement. And again, I just, keep promoting the idea of using the push notifications. That was key for us. Because it's a year-round app, we had a lot of people who had already downloaded the app. So we were able to just, really quickly switch. We told everybody, hey, we're going to send you an email telling you that we're switching to a virtual event. But from here on out, the communication is in the app. We don't have time to, create these big, huge marketing emails and worry about the design. We're just going to be communicating via the app, and that's how we did our communication. But now where it really becomes, actually, let me make sure I go back, sorry. Where it really becomes important is the news feed. So we made a huge use of the news feed. The news feed, the app itself really becomes the replication of your in-person event, your hotel or your location. But I feel like the news feed is really where you can get a lot of activity. So we were posting in the news feed, obviously, throughout our event, and that included, just updates about sessions that were next. We also had some pre-recorded video that we dropped in, and that's information that you can get from us. In a next slide, I'll show you a guide we have available. But more importantly, we encouraged our attendees to post in the news feed. And so the whole news feed just became its own experience in and of itself. Attendees posting what their setup was, people posting comments and pictures about different sessions. Those the posts themselves spawned their own discussions. So very active in the news feed. And then to add a shout out to the forums, like Alexa was mentioning, we had live Q&A after each presentation, and we said if you want to continue the Q&A, go to the discussion forum. And what you'll find when you have a virtual event is that there are way more questions than if you have an in-person event. So you really need to find a time or a way to answer those questions, and the discussion forum really worked out great for us. So, the final bit is, okay, how do you measure your success? Super successful. Well over 90% of our attendees downloaded the app. We had something like 1,300 messages sent. We had something like 28,000 views of the news. Just tons of activity. And the obvious point with these metrics are these are things you don't get from an in-person event. You really have no idea how many side conversations are there, how many questions are posed, what sessions are the most popular in terms of conversations, what news posts are liked the most. So we have all this additional information that we typically wouldn't get from an event that really helps us understand, kind of what resonates with everybody. I mentioned that there's a lot more that goes into an in-person event, and we put a virtual event playbook together. It's available on Clouder's site. The URL is there, clouderapps.com or clouder.com /COVID-19. There's a lot of other information related to communicating in today's environment, but you can also get the virtual event playbook there. And if you're not an IMIS client, it's still relevant. If you're a Clouder client, you can really get a good idea of how we used the Clouder app and some other tips to make your event a success. Oh, and one more slide, and this is great. So it's not over. Well, of course it's not over because it's a year-round app. So our attendees are continuing to use it, and of course our partners and our clients who use the app continue to use it. So one of the things you'll find with a virtual event versus an in-person event is there's less of an end date to that event. It can really live on. And so we had all this activity in the event, and I would say this event, this virtual event, relative to last year's in-person event, we have a lot more app activity now post virtual event than we did post live event. So the Clouder app is really, I think, geared towards supporting virtual events, and I think you'll likely find that it really becomes a good spark for you and is something that your members will continue to access and use. Okay, so Brad, back over to you.
Helps if I take myself off mute, doesn't it? Let's actually, since we're running a little bit close on time, I would love to know if we have any questions that are going to be queued up or how we accept those questions. I think, as we go through kind of the key takeaways that we're going through here, how are you best using your app? You got tons of great tips, very actionable ideas from Michelle. I think, what I love about Alexa is just her relentless pursuit of the value in all the specific features themselves, but more importantly, how they work together. And, as I've listened to Edward kind of share his storyline, the "it's not over" slide really has taken on its own meaning, because what he didn't say is it was so successful, they added 3 more of those events virtually. And with each of the additional 3 events, they've actually added more ways to engage inside of the app. So, that's really important to have perspective, that you don't just turn everything on and walk away. Like any good piece of technology, it's constantly evolving. We heard about vulnerabilities and being a little bit afraid to do too much or not enough. That's also part of it in the learning with any new tool. So, certainly what we want you to do is think about the evolution of your platform, how it can get just a little bit better, how you can just take the existing features, go a little bit deeper, how to take, if you just walked away from today's session and added one new thing, just one, not 6 or 10, just one new feature that I know for a fact Alexa has probably sent out in some form of an email. I know Kelsey has likely encouraged you. So that's my challenge to you. What's the one thing that you are going to do today that maybe you have a renewed sense of confidence hearing Michelle or Kelsey or Alexa, that you just, maybe you didn't, fully appreciate the value of the forums, and you're going to put some effort into that. Because, what we have talked about consistently in the last 60 days is, when this is all over, and there will be a time when we're on the other side of this crisis, is we know that you as clients are going to hold us accountable, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to consistently earn your trust. That's our job. That's our lens, and we will never rest on that. But guess what? So will your members. As budgets get tightened, as things have to be cut, every single membership with an association is potentially on the chopping block. So when it's all over, they're gonna remember you. They're gonna know all the support, all the guidelines, all the help that you gave them, and the app is one of many tools that you're doing to deliver that assistance. So with that, I'm really just grateful that you spent some time with us today. Hopefully you're going to walk away. And Edward, do you have any questions at all that we've been able to capture?
Yep, I do have some good questions. So let me pass the first
Awesome.
one, which is one that I know I hear a lot when I talk to clients. How much time/staff resources does Michelle's association spend managing the app, newsfeed, push notifications, et cetera, each week?
So I can answer that pretty much every day. It's kind of like an intermittent process. So, I'll check it in the morning, see what we've got. If we have something to post, we do that throughout the day, but it's really not very time consuming because it's mixed in with so many other things that I do during the day.
Yes, and I'll just add on to that if I can. As a client, we view the management of the app similar to sort of social media management, like a communications role. So we've got a person on our staff whose job is to manage our social media properties, and they're the primary, management of the app. Obviously we give them direction, but when we have something to communicate, the app is, one of the tools that we communicate it through. We put a little bit more time when it comes to the event, just because with the virtual event, the app, really was the center of everything we did. So, Michelle, same, I would agree, same thing. Next question I have is one that I think I can answer, which is, for us, live events really drive app usage, i.e. Q&A. how do we continue driving people to the app if we are hosting virtual event via Zoom or other platform? So this was posted about 2:30. So I'm guessing, Chris, that you saw my presentation after this. So you saw that. So let me just add to that like a different way to think of it. And this is what we told our attendees at our virtual event. When you guys go home each night, there's probably often you have a time where you might sit in front of the TV for a little bit. I'm not saying everybody's on the couch watching TV as much as I do, but I bet when you do that, you have your mobile phone handy or it's somewhere close. And we said the same thing to our attendees. Here's you're going to experience the event. You're sitting in front of a laptop or a desktop, and you're watching the content, but you have your phone in your hand, and that's how you're interacting with everybody. So the commenting, the chatting with other folks, the answering additional questions, that is in the mobile app. So you're going to consume the content, learn information, watch it on your big screen, but you're going to interact on your small screen. So we still use the app for Q&A, driving people over to the discussion forum. We still use the app for rating the sessions, which was really important. And we put material in the app, so you could access a recording or the sessions. And of course, the app was the agenda. So for us, it kind of was natural. And I actually would say, at least my experience, this is 2 conferences now that I've used the app, we made far greater use of it for the virtual event than we did for the in-person event. At least that's how I felt. Next question, Michelle, this one's for you too. How many total members does PDA have?
PDA has about, I'm going to say, a little more than 4,200 member dentists. And so we have quite a ways to go to get everyone on the app. But yes, so we're looking at over 4,000, and our app user base right now is about 1,050.
Next question for you, that's a good one, is prior to the app, did PDA have any sort of member forum, like an online discussion forum, or other means for members to chat with each other?
There is something, it's called a social network, and it's tied in with the website, and that's for member only. And there could be private groups, there could be discussion groups, and some are still used, but we're really trying to segue everyone to the app because they can take it with them. Social network is just tied to website-based.
Next question is, and you may have addressed this in the time staff resources one, so I apologize if I missed it, but are there dedicated staff at PDA who focus exclusively on the app?
I would say that would probably be me, only because I take care of the other social media platforms. My coworker in our Department of Communications, she can also take over that if I'm not able to for some reason. So we have some cross training in that respect. And also some people on our membership team have developed their own groups for different local societies within the organization, and they use it for events and things like that. So we have a lot of different people that are able to and use it for different things, but I primarily post the newsfeed and forum and resource information.
One more, this isn't a question, but this is a comment, and just as a client, because I love Clowder client success, I want to just read it. It says, I can vouch for Kelsey's commitment to our successful implementation. She's been great. So great job, Kelsey. Great job, Alexa. Any more questions? We're almost at the hour. Let me just do one last call for questions. You got the app experts here, including an actual client with PDA. So if you have any questions, please use the question panel at the lower right-hand side. So last call for questions, going once, going twice, going 3 times. I think that's it, Brad. So I'll pass it back to you to wrap it up.
Edward, thank you so much. Really appreciate your help in moderating. Michelle, thank you for giving a really authentic and raw account of how the app has helped you guys. And certainly Alexa and Kelsey, none of this would be possible without you guys. So On behalf of our entire team, we continue to be so grateful for all the hard work that you guys do for our clients. And then last but not least, we wouldn't be here without you guys participating as clients. So thank you for trusting us. We're certainly not perfect, but we work really hard every day to not just earn your trust, but maintain that trust. And hopefully you found today beneficial. We just encourage you to reach back out to your dedicated client success manager if you want to drill down on any of these individual topics. And then you'll notice here on our website, we do have a COVID-19 page dedicated to a lot of these. We built out a 30-page coronavirus strategy playbook. We've got 3 or 4 recorded webinars on there. So hopefully our intent is that this is valuable content that you can use on an ongoing basis. So please check that out, as well as our blog. We have incredible writers that talk not just about Clowder, but really about how to think about mobile more broadly, how to introduce mobile into your organization for the long haul. So we do post regularly once a week. So there's a bunch of great content there as well. And with that, just want to say again, thank you for your participation, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Okay, thanks everybody. And you will receive an email after this with a recording of the webinar too. So you'll have that access. Thanks Alexa, Kelsey, Brad, and Michelle, and everybody else. Thanks for joining us. Have a fantastic rest of your day.